you, Minister, GM, National Commissioner General Levere, DNCs, colleagues and members of the media. As it has already been indicated, we will be taking you through the fourth quarter crime statistics covering the period from January up to March 2023.
Just for our viewers at home, we're just assembling the microphones.
Okay.
All right, over to you, General.
All right, thank you. As is the norm, we normally start with a table that gives highlights in terms of what has been reported to the police. Starting with the contact crimes, we have recorded an increase of 266 counts more of murders. Sexual offenses decreased by 594. Attempted murder increased by 475. Assault GBH increased by 98. Common assault increased by 3,480. Common robbery increased by 957. Robbery with aggravating circumstances an increase of 1,677. And overall, the broad category called contact crimes increased by 6,299, a percentage increase of 4.0. Breaking down the sexual offenses that are in column 2, but they're now going down to the levels of the crime that are in that particular small basket, we have a decrease of rapes by 306, sexual assault decreased by 322, attempted sexual offenses increased by 116, contact sexual offenses decreased by 82. Then subcategories of robbery with aggravating circumstances, starting with the 3 crimes that are named the trio crimes. We have an increase in terms of, a decrease in terms of carjacking of 283. Robbery at residential premises increased by 311, and robbery at non-residential premises decreased by 251, meaning of the 3 crimes that are named trio crimes, 2 have decreased and 1 have increased. The ones that have decreased is carjacking and robbery at non-residential premises, and the one that has increased is robbery at residential premises. Continuing further with the crimes that make up the basket of robbery with aggravating circumstances, we had an increase of 11 counts more in terms of robbery of cash in transit. Bank robberies, we had a decrease of 5 counts less, and truck hijacking, a decrease of 30 counts less. I think I'm going the wrong way. Okay. Then on this slide, what we do, we take those crimes that where the victim is a person. Then we take into consideration the total population of the country with a view to compute what is called per capita estimates of the particular crimes. So we take the total population of the country and the total number of murders that had been reported in the country, divide the total number by the total population, multiplied by 100,000 to derive a ratio called the population ratio. For the murders, we had a 10.3%, 10.3 per 100,000, meaning if the total population of South Africa were to be divided in equal portions of 100,000, the possibility of a person ending up being killed is only 10 of the 100,000. Then for the rapes, we have 17.2 per 100,000, attempted murders 10.1 per 100,000, assault GBH 70.4 per 100,000, common assault 80.4 per 100,000, common robbery 19.2 per 100,000. The logic is the same across for all these other crimes, because we take what has been reported, divide by the population, multiply by 100,000 to get this per 100,000. And these estimates are obtained from the 2021 mid-year population estimates. Continuing with the table, going to contact-related crimes, the 2 crimes that make up contact-related crimes decreased by 2.0%, 585 in numbers. That is shared between arson 113 and malicious damage to property 472. Of the 5 crimes that make up property-related crimes, 2 have increased. That is your burglary at non-residential premises and theft out of or from motor vehicle. The other 3, which is burglary at residential premises, theft of motor vehicle, and stock theft, recorded decreases. Then the total of the 17 community reported crimes increased by 4,002, a 3.7% increase. Crime detected as a result of police action whereby the desirable direction of change is an increase. We had detected more in terms of illegal possession of firearms of 480, drug-related crimes 2,497 more counts. The only decrease in this category that we have observed was driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs. Then sexual offenses, we again recorded an increase in terms of crimes or sexual offenses detected as a result of police action. Then the graphical representation of the 17 community reported crimes in the month of January, February, and March, we had increases of 7,949. In February, 2,301, March, 3,752, and then all the provinces have recorded increases across the 17 community reported crimes. And the province that contributed the highest number of crimes in terms of the 17 community reported crimes was the Gauteng province, which contributes 27.2 to the 17 community reported crimes, and the second highest is the Western Cape with 19.1. The third highest is the Eastern Cape, which contributes 10.3%. Then the top stations in terms of the 17 community reported crimes, one observed there is that the top three are all central stations led by Johannesburg Central, Durban Central, and then Johannesburg Central. These are the top stations in terms of the number of crimes for the 17 community reported that had been observed. And all these stations are number one in their respective provinces. That is indicated in column number 2. Then going on to the contact crimes, we had increases of 3,694 in January, 119 in February, 2,486 in March. Then all the provinces recorded increases with regard to the contact crimes, and again the province with the highest contributor to the contact crimes is the province of Gauteng with 27.6, then KwaZulu-Natal and the Western Cape coming number 2 in terms of contribution by 17.1%. Then the top contact crime stations, they are led there by Gauteng, Johannesburg Central, and from number 2 up to number 4 is the Western Cape, that is Namfuleni at number 2, Nyanga at number 3, Mitchell's Plain at number 4, and then again Gauteng with Tembisa at number 5. And all the top 5 stations in terms of contact crimes have recorded increases of 66, 158, 112, 159, and 63 respectively. Causative factors from a sample size specifically for the murder of 6,068 murders that had been committed in the country. We drew a sample of 6,068 and tried to establish what are the causative factors of these murders. We established that 872 of the murders were attributable to arguments, misunderstanding, road rage, and provocation. The second highest was mob justice or vigilantism with 588, robberies number 3 at 345. Then we had retaliation at number 4 with 289, gang-related with 152, and tax-related at 76. The rest of the contributory factors or the causative factors can be seen for attempted murder and assault GBH, which you can go through at your leisure. Then selected places, after looking at the causative factors, we looked at where are these murders taking place. We found that it was indicated that most of the murders were taking place in public places, street, open fields, recreational centers, parks, beaches, and abandoned buildings, of which 2,991 of the murders were attributable to have taken place at such facilities. The second highest was taking place at the residence of the perpetrators, which is 1,697. We also had murders that had taken place at liquor outlets, having been indicated in terms of 227 people that were killed. Then the rest can be seen from there. Then in terms of the crimes against women and children, on the left-hand side, we have the crimes against the women, and then on the right-hand side, we have crimes against the children. Starting with the women, we had 71 more women murdered in this quarter compared to the previous quarter. That is from 898 to 969, resulting in a 7.9% increase. Attempted murders increased by 263 in terms of women, and then assault GBH 107. With regard to children, we had a reduction in the murders of children, that is both boys and girls between the ages of 0 and 17 years. The murders in that category have reduced by 61, that is a 19.9% decrease, and the assault GBH decreased by 6 counts, resulting in a 0.3% decrease, whereas attempted murders for children increased by 29. Then a proxy for domestic violence, that is a proxy for GBV, where we look at domestic violence instances. These are instances whereby there has been indicated that there is a relationship between the victim and the perpetrator. Looking at the various crimes focusing on murder and rape for this round, it was indicated that 250 murders were attributable to domestic violence, meaning that these people are either ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, current wife, current husband, etc., brothers, sisters, and other forms of domestic relationship. And the split between the women and children is equal, because 125 female were victims, and so were 125 males. Then the province which indicated the highest number of murders attributable to the domestic violence was KwaZulu-Natal with 67. Then going on to rape, 843 people ended up being victims of rape from a domestic setting or the domestic relationship, whereby 805 of the victims were female and 38 were male. And the province with the highest number of domestic violence-related rapes was the province of Gauteng with 180. The second highest was KwaZulu-Natal, and the Western Cape with 157 at number 3. Then the provinces that had recorded decreases in terms of the murder was the province of the Free State, Northern Cape, and the Western Cape, which reduced by 22, 10, and 143 respectively. The other provinces recorded increases, and in terms of the contribution, the province with the highest contribution to the murder is the province of KwaZulu-Natal with 25.3%. The second highest is the Gauteng province with 24.7%. Then looking at the per capita for the murders, we look at the respective population within the provinces, and then the murders that had been recorded in that particular province, and we do per capita murders. Taking that route, we see that the province with the highest per capita murder is the province of the Eastern Cape with 16.7 per 100,000, KwaZulu-Natal at number 2 with 13.6 per 100,000, Western Cape at 11.9 per 100,000, Gauteng 9.5 per 100,000, Free State and Mpumalanga are in the region of 7 per 100,000, Northern Cape and Northwest are in the region of 6 per 100,000, and the province with the lowest per capita murder is the province of Limpopo with 4 per 100,000. This is a graphical representation of the slide that I have just talked to, and this time around we also included the population estimates for the respective provinces, so I don't necessarily have to go through this. Then in terms of the stations, the top 30 stations for murder, they are led by the 2 stations from KwaZulu-Natal, that is Umlazi and Inanda at number 1 and 2. However, both the stations have reduced by 35 and 11 counts less respectively. The third highest is in the Western Cape with Delft, which has increased by 6, Plessis Layer in KwaZulu-Natal, which also decreased by 10, and then Orange Farm at number 5, which has increased by 12, making up the top 5 murder stations in the country. Then in terms of the causative factors, we have already looked at that. This table only brings the provincial aspect into the picture that we had already talked to. So this slide will be, and the presentation will be made available, and one can then go through the provinces in terms of their contributions by the respective causative factors at their leisure. We also had instances whereby there were a number of victims that were killed in one incident. We had 8 victims that were shot in one incident. The same incident also resulted in 3 attempted murders. That was in New Brighton, whereby 8 people were killed and 3 were injured at the house party. The house owner was celebrating his birthday when 2 unknown gunmen entered the yard and started shooting the guests. Then we also had a case whereby 7 people were killed in BG, 4 men and 3 women aged between the ages of 32 and 46 were shot in around Davao by unknown suspect. Then we also had instances in Diepkloof, Mtonsasa, Alberton, and New Brighton. The New Brighton one, whereas we had 5 victims, it also resulted in 6 attempted murder cases. This shows that in one incident can result in so many murders and attempted murders, pushing up the numbers that had been reported to the police. Now, when we look at the weapons that had been used in terms of the commission of the murders, a word of precaution is that the 2,629 that has been indicated as the firearm does not mean that there were 2,629 firearms that were used. It simply means that 2,629 people were killed with firearms. It could have been one firearm killing 10, 20, or 30 people, but the bottom line is that 2,629 succumbed to bullet wounds. The second highest is knives, which indicated that it was 919, sharp instruments, 475. Then members of the police or members of the SAPS are not spared from this scourge of murder, as we have recorded 24 murders whereby the people that were killed were members of the South African Police Service. Of these that were killed, 19 were off duty and 5 were killed whilst they were off duty. Then attacks on the farming community, we had a decrease in terms of the murders of the farming community. That is, in this instance, we had 8 members of the farming community that were killed in this quarter from 17, resulting in a reduction of 9 murders less compared to the previous period. We also had a decrease in terms of robbery with aggravating circumstances of 24. The only crime in terms of the attacks on rural communities that has increased was the common robbery, which was 1 count higher compared to the previous period. All the other contact crimes and property-related crimes have recorded decreases. These numbers have also been checked with those that had been produced in the quarter 1 of the AfriForum crime statistics, and based on that information that we also received from them, we received some of the we revised some of the numbers that met the definition of the rural crime safety strategy definitions, and then produced the current numbers. Then in terms of the rapes, we had decreases in terms of January and February of 23 and 319. The only increase we had was in the month of March of 36, and the provinces that had recorded decreases was the Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Northern Cape, and the Western Cape. The provinces recording increases was KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, and the Northwest, and overall the rapes decreased by 306, a decrease of 2.8%. Then the top 5 stations are made up of Inanda, Thohoyandou, Lusikisiki, Umlazi, and Umtata. And Inanda, which is number 1 or the highest station in terms of rape, decreased by 16. Lusikisiki, which is number 3, has decreased by 27. Then this is a graphical representation of the per capita of the rapes that had been reported in the provinces. Then the places of occurrence for the rapes, from a sample of 7,769, it was indicated that 4,768 rapes have taken place at the residence of the perpetrator, 1,698 have taken place at public places, 196 in a bus or a boat or a ship or a taxi, agricultural holdings 124, and we also had the rapes at the educational institution, which was indicated that 84 of these rapes have taken place at educational institutions. Then the use and abuse of alcohol in the commission of the crimes. At the top graph, we indicate instances whereby alcohol was used prior or during the commission of the crimes. Looking at the murder, it was indicated that 217 of the murders were committed in the presence and use and abuse of alcohol, and 19 of those drugs were taken. 1,237 of the rapes, alcohol was involved, and in 100 of the rapes, drugs were involved. Assault GBH 3,123, alcohol was involved, and 160 drugs. In 160 assault GBH cases, drugs were involved. Then in terms of confirmed places where alcohol is being sold, it has recorded 227 murders that had taken place at either at a tavern, shebeen, pub, nightclub, etc., and 228 attempted murders having taken place at such facilities, 71 rapes taking place at these facilities, 2,604 assault GBH taking place at these facilities. Then the breakdown in terms of the rapes and murders at the educational premises, we see that there were 8 murders that had taken place at the educational premises, of which the 7 were at school and 1 was at a tertiary institution. A word of caution is that this does not necessarily imply that the people that had been killed were all learners or were all students. It simply means that this is the place where the body was recovered after the crime has been committed. Then we also had 67 rapes that had taken place at schools, and then 8 rapes having taken place at the tertiary institution. We also had some of the rapes having taken place at after school, after care centers, and special schools. Then moving on to the robbery with aggravating circumstances, we had decreases in terms of carjacking in Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and then overall in South Africa, we had a decrease of 283 cases of carjacking. Then at the top stations, in terms of carjacking, they are led by Nyanga. Number 2 is Harare, GP at number 3, Moroka and Midrand, with 4 and 5. All these 3 to 5 stations are in the province of Gauteng, and the first 2 are in the province of the Western Cape, although the second highest station, that is Harare in the Western Cape, have recorded a decrease of 24.1%. Robbery at residential premises, we recorded decreases in the Free State, Northwest, and the Western Cape. Then residential premises, top 30 stations, the top 4 are in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, led by Plessis Liar, eSekaleni, Inanda, and KwaDukuza, and the 5th one in Tembisa, that is Gauteng. Although from number 3 up to number 5, all those stations have recorded decreases of 5, 11, and 10 respectively. Then robbery at non-residential premises, we recorded decreases in 7 of the 9 provinces. The only provinces that recorded increases was the province of Limpopo with 38 and the Northern Cape with a count of 10 counts more. Then the top stations are led by KwaZulu-Natal, which is Pinetown and Durban Central. Durban Central reducing by 4. Then we had Johannesburg Central at number 3 with a reduction of 17. Then we had East London with a reduction of 12. Robberies of cash in transit, we had decreases in the Free State, KwaZulu-Natal, and the Western Cape. The provinces that recorded increases was the province of Eastern Cape with 7, Gauteng with 5, Limpopo 3, Mpumalanga 3, Northwest 1, and then overall robbery of cash in transit in the country increased by 11 counts more. Then looking at the breakdown in terms of the cash in transit that we have just talked to, we had 35 incidents whereby the armored vehicle was on the road. Of these 35, 16 were in Gauteng, 10 in the Eastern Cape, 4 in Mpumalanga, 2 in KwaZulu-Natal, 2 in Northwest, and 1 in Limpopo. The cross pavements, we had 25 incidents, 9 in Gauteng, 5 in Limpopo, 4 in KwaZulu-Natal, 3 in Eastern Cape, 3 in Mpumalanga, and 1 in the Western Cape. And in these instances, the method that was used to gain access or control the armored vehicle, 17 it was collided with and then subsequently bombed. In 8 of the incident, the path of the armored vehicle was blocked and subsequently bombed. And in 10 incidents, the armored vehicle was shot at and then subsequently bombed. Then this is the breakdown of the types of robberies of cash in transit. I will not go into the details on that. Then truck hijacking, we had decreases in the Free State, Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northwest, and the Western Cape, and overall we had a reduction of 30 truck hijacking compared to the previous period. Then these are the top 30 stations led mostly by stations from Gauteng, that is Weston Ariat number 1, Kempton Park number 2, Alberton number 3, Orange Farm at number 4, and Swartkop, which is also number 1 in the Eastern Cape for truck hijacking. Then looking at the circumstances around kidnapping, we only focused on cases whereby ransom was demanded. It was demanded in 118 of the incidents, where the bulk of them was coming from Gauteng with 71 instances where ransom was demanded. 15 were attributable to truck hijack, to human trafficking, with Gauteng again the highest with 5, and then 11 incidents of extortion, and then we had Gauteng again leading with 4. Then kidnapping ransom related, we had increases in the Eastern Cape of 4, Gauteng 39, KwaZulu-Natal 10, Mpumalanga 2, then overall kidnapping ransom related increased by 40. Then we look also at what is termed the core diversion. These are instances whereby the resources of policing are diverted from policing competencies to go and monitor and make sure that some of the incidents are peaceful and some are unrest. We had the bulk of this taking place in the province of KZN and Gauteng, whereby 475 incidents which required the intervention of the police were termed to be peaceful, and then 155 were termed to be unrest related in the province of Gauteng. Then in KwaZulu-Natal, we had 395 incidents which were termed to be peaceful, and 156 which were termed to be unrest, which required the intervention of the police. And then the last slide, we look at it's a summary kind of, whereby we look at all the 9 provinces and then we determine the number of crimes that have increased, stabilized, or decreased within a particular province. And then we also give the breakdown in terms of those particular crimes, in terms of the increases and decreases. And one can see that the Gauteng province is the crime that had the highest number of decreases in terms of the 17 community reported crimes, which is 8. And then the provinces of the Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Mpumalanga, and the Free State recorded decreases in 7 of the 17 community reported crimes. And that is the last of my slide. I thank you.